Joining us this morning is Dr. Joe Mcbride, a pediatric infectious disease physician with UW Health Kids in Madison. Dr. McBride, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks so much for having me.
So as we return back to what some consider normal life from the pandemic, flu season is coming fast. So what are some common infections that school-age kids will come across?
Great. So you're absolutely right in that now that things are a little bit more normal with our school-age children and masks are off in the majority of places, this would anticipate a lot of the return of different types of infections that we didn't really see a whole ton of in the setting of COVID. Things like influenza or respiratory syncytial virus, RSV, and even strep throat really all plummeted during early onset of COVID. And now that things are again coming a little bit more back to normal, we're really curious to see if we see a lot of return of these types of normal germs.
Right, and when should parents be concerned about their children getting sick, and when should they seek treatment?
That's a really great question, especially because we have a lot of accessible COVID tests that people could take at home. And a lot of these things have really similar symptoms that overlap with one another. So we hear a lot of parents saying, I have a child with a cough or with a fever, and I've been swabbing them at home with those rapid antigen tests, and they've always been COVID negative. And that might be great, but for parents to still acknowledge that there are other germs that might not be picked up on those COVID tests, things like influenza or RSV or strep throat. And if symptoms are persistent or severe, then of course they should see their healthcare providers, pediatricians, people like that.
And so what are some other steps that parents can take to keep their kids healthy in school?
Well, the recommendation is for every individual above the age of 6 months to get flu shots each year. And of course, that still is the same. And I think right now is an important time for families to recognize this because people are really anxious again to go out and have normal Thanksgivings, normal Christmases, and all getting together in groups. Now is the time to get the vaccines for the COVID booster and for influenza, even in school-age children. So by the time that Thanksgiving and Christmas and the holidays roll around, that you and your family are well protected.
All really important advice for parents, Dr. McBride. Thank you again so much for joining us.